You know those stories you heard as a kid, like The Tortoise and the Hare or The Wolf and the Seven Little Goats? Ever wonder why they're still so vivid in your mind, years, even decades later? Well, it's not by accident. These aren't just simple tales. They are perfectly engineered lessons. So today, let's dive in and deconstruct the secret formula that gives these fables their incredible staying power.
So here's what we're going to do. We're going to start by digging into the tight link between choice and consequence. Then, we'll look at why liars never seem to win in these stories. After that, we'll tackle that classic theme, pride before the fall. And finally, we'll put it all together to reveal the hidden lesson plan that makes these stories totally unforgettable.
So what is it about these narratives? I mean, on the surface, they seem almost too simple, right? Yet they get passed down from generation to generation and they never lose their punch. Well, the answer is that there's a powerful and repeatable formula at work, a kind of moral blueprint.
Okay, so the first and maybe the most important piece of this formula is the crystal clear connection between what a character does and what happens to them. There are no gray areas here, no ambiguity. And to really see this in action, let's take a look at the story often called The Lazy Girl. The setup is just brilliant in its simplicity. You have two sisters who face the exact same set of challenges: a dry tree, a broken oven, a dirty well, you name it. This isn't just a convenient plot device. It's basically a controlled experiment designed to test one thing and one thing only: their character. And right away, you see this massive difference. On one side, you have the kind sister. She just consistently chooses to help, no questions asked. She gets her hands dirty, she fixes what's broken, she follows the rules. But on the other side, the lazy sister's choices are all about selfishness and vanity. Her refusal to help is instant. It's a perfect picture of virtue versus vice, side by side. And because those choices are so black and white, the consequences are just as extreme. The story doesn't mess around with nuance. It just delivers a direct, unforgettable lesson about cause and effect. And the payoff? It's just as crystal clear as the choices they made. The kind sister is literally showered in gold and diamonds and welcomed by everyone she helped. The lazy sister? Well, she gets attacked by bugs, shunned by those she snobbed, and ultimately kicked out of her home. The lesson couldn't be more obvious. Good choices lead to good things. Bad choices lead to bad things. And just like that, rule number one of our moral formula is locked in. All right, let's build on that. If the first rule is about direct consequences, the second is all about how deception just never works. In these fables, lies always have a price, and the truth will always come out. See, in these stories, the villain is rarely just some big brute. They're often clever, cunning, and calculating. Just think about the wolf from The Wolf and the Seven Little Goats. He doesn't just try to knock down the door. No, he listens, he learns, and he literally changes his disguise to fool the goats. I mean, look at this. The wolf's approach is totally methodical. He figures out his weaknesses, his gruff voice, and his black feet, and then he systematically fixes them. He eats chalk to make his voice softer and covers his feet in flour. This is a deliberate, multi-step plan to deceive. He's a planner. But for all his clever planning, it just doesn't work out. In the end, the mother goat finds him, cuts him open, and saves her kids. The logic of the story is rock solid. No matter how smart the lie is, it can't last. The truth is just a more powerful force. And this isn't just a one-time thing either. We see this exact same idea play out in The Goose Girl. In this story, a maid basically forces a princess to switch places with her, stealing her identity and her entire future. It's a classic story of deception. But the truth always finds a way, right? And here, it finds its way out through the wisdom of the king. He senses something's off, but he doesn't just confront the real princess. Instead, he sets this brilliant trap, telling her to confess all her secrets to a big rock. And this is the best part. The poetic justice is just perfect. The king hides and overhears the whole tragic story. He then tells the story to the fake princess, the maid, and asks her what the punishment should be. Having no idea she's condemning herself, she comes up with this really harsh penalty, which is then immediately used on her. The liar literally chooses her own punishment. Okay, so we've got clear consequences, and we've got lies getting exposed. The third big piece of this formula is all about a classic human flaw: arrogance. These stories are constantly warning us that being overconfident is a one-way ticket to failure. And seriously, what's a better example of this than the hare and the tortoise? Right from the very start, the hare is all about his pride. He doesn't just think he's fast, he thinks he's unbeatable, and he wants to make sure everybody knows it.
You can really just break this whole race down to its core elements. The hare, he's got all this natural talent, speed, but it's totally poisoned by his arrogance. The tortoise, on the other hand, he's slow, but he has something much more powerful. He's steady. And the result of the race comes from their character traits, not their physical speed.
And this is what's so wild. The hare doesn't lose because he's slow. No, he loses because he's so fast, and he knows it. His confidence is so absolute that he thinks he can stop for a nap in the middle of the race. His greatest strength becomes his fatal flaw, all because of his pride.
And from that, of course, we get one of the most famous morals of all time. It's not just about running a race. It's a lesson for life. The story proves that being persistent and humble can beat raw, arrogant talent any day of the week. It's an incredibly powerful message. Okay, so we've looked at choices and consequences, lies and truth, and pride versus humility. Now, let's pull all of these threads together and finally reveal the complete formula that makes these stories so incredibly effective. So, what is the secret sauce? What's the magic ingredient? It's the way all these pieces, the clear choices, the inevitable truth, the downfall of pride, all combine to create this simple, repeatable, and deeply powerful structure for teaching us core values. So here is the moral story formula, broken down. First, you set up clear opposites, the kind versus the lazy, the arrogant versus the humble. Second, you make sure that every action has a direct and predictable consequence. Third, you make it so any lie or trick is always exposed, showing the truth wins. And finally, it all leads to the triumph of virtue. Kindness, honesty, and just sticking with it always win in the end. And that's why these tales stick around. They're not just fun stories. They are a perfectly designed lesson plan for being a good person. Our brains are basically wired to see patterns, especially the simple logic of cause and effect. So for a young mind, this formula provides a clean, safe way to understand a very complex world. It's like a mental shortcut for learning right from wrong. And that leaves us with one final thought. You know, our world today is messy. It's full of nuance and a million shades of gray. So, knowing how much our brains crave that simple moral clarity, is there still power, and maybe even a need, for stories that give us a straightforward lesson? Something to think about.